All right, this is the Algebra 1 new Unit 7 Lesson 1 video, and we are introducing exponents in this lesson, and we're going to basically do exponents for this entire unit. So it's really important that we have kind of a foundational understanding of what exponents are and what they mean. So when we talk about exponents, we are talking about an expression such as the following. Maybe 3 to the 4th power. So within this expression, we have two components. We have this number here, which we call the base, and we have this number here, which we call the exponent or the power. And so really what you need to understand is that when you see an expression like 3 to the 4th, what it's telling you to do is to do the base number times itself, the number of times of the power. So this is not 3 times 4. This is 3 times itself 4 times. And so if we were to work that all the way out, we'd get 81. So, but the key here is this, that the exponent means to do it 3 times itself 4 times. Okay, so that's what you need to understand about exponents. So that's kind of the key piece of information for this lesson. And then there are two unique special kind of exponents that we need to know about. And that is going to be the 0 exponent and the power of 1. So power of 0 and power of 1. I guess I'll change this to be power of 0. Power of 0 and power of 1. So let's just talk about those really briefly because they're really straightforward. But what you need to know is that any number to the power of 0 even if it's a negative number, any number to the power of 0 is 1. The answer is always 1. Any number to the power of 1, on the other hand, a couple examples of those, is going to be that number. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's drag this guy over here. So any number to the power of 1 is itself. So those are two special cases you need to have. And then lastly, we need to talk about what to do when you have negative exponents. So with negative exponents, we're talking about like just something like this. 8 to the, that's probably not a good example. Let me go back here. Something as simple as 3 to the negative 2 power. So how do I raise something to the negative 2 power? How do I multiply it? Well, when this happens, you need to realize that actually the way this should be written is the reciprocal of that with the exponent positive. So the answer to this expression would be 1 over 9. So in other words, if you have a negative exponent, you can move it from one side of the fraction to the other, and it becomes positive. So for instance, if I have 2a to the 4th divided by b to the negative 2, I need to make that b into a positive exponent by moving it to the top, and it becomes b squared. So notice I'm taking the negative exponent and I'm moving it up to make it that, just like I moved this 3 to the negative exponent and I moved it down and it becomes positive 2. So this would be the final answer there. So that's what we're going to do with negative exponents. You're going to see lots of examples of how to do this. So if you're not quite grasping it yet, you'll see it in practice, and I think it will make a lot of sense. So let's jump over to my other drawing, and let's do some sample problems. So these sample problems are mirrored on the problems that you see in your lesson. Obviously, you have they do some samples for you up here in the lesson, so make sure you kind of follow along those. But then there's vocabulary, and then starting at number 5, which is where I'm kind of starting, I'm going to do problems that are exactly like the ones here, just different numbers. So we're going to talk through some of the issues, some of the things that you need to know about here. So whenever we sit down to one of these exponent problems, the first thing we need to understand is we are going to use order of operations. Remember, order of operations can be represented as this little acronym, PEMDAS, where it says to do parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. So key thing here is we're going to be doing a lot with exponents. So exponents are going to be completed before we do a lot of the other work. So for instance, I want to work inside the parentheses first. And inside each parentheses, I have to work the order of operations. So for instance, I'm going to rewrite this 2. It's not going to be changed yet. But inside this parentheses, I have 3 squared, which is 9. That's times 5. And then over here in this parentheses, I have 8 to the 0, which if you remember, we talked about 8 to the 0 being power of 0 means that it automatically equals 1. So that's going to be 1 plus 6. So then now I'm ready to continue working through my parentheses. I'm looking for multiplication. So I have 9 times 5 is 45. No multiplication there, so we can add those since they're still inside parentheses, and parentheses comes first. That's going to be a 7. Now I'm pretty much done with my parentheses because now I can just multiply. 2 times 45 is 90. 3 times 7 is 21. And so the final answer is 69 for that first problem. So kind of make sure you're understanding the process. I'm working out everything inside of parentheses until I get it down to an individual number. And then I'm doing the multiplication of each. 2 times 45, 3 times 7. And then at the very end, I'm doing addition and subtraction. So kind of think of it that way. Each of these is its own little step. Multiplication, division comes together, and addition, subtraction comes together. All right, another one that's very similar. So let's look at this one together. So again, I'm not going to do anything except what's in the parentheses, and then I'm going to look for exponents. So 2 to the 3rd power is 8 minus 6. Now, if you're not sure what the answers to these are, like 3 squared or 8 0, remember it's 3 times itself twice. That's 3 times 3. But also, if you're really not comfortable with that, just use your calculator, or you can use the Desmos calculator, which if you see has buttons for let me grab my laser pointer, has buttons for squared, and then this button can be used for other powers. So for instance, if I want to do 3 squared, I'll do 3 squared like that, and it gives me an answer of 9. And then I could do 4, and then I could hit this button to get another power like that, 4 to the 3rd. That would be the second exponent button that you see here. So we have a squared button, and we have a exponent button on Desmos. We have both of those. So just keep that in mind. All right. So you'll need to use the calculator, but I'm going to, for the most part, I'm going to work these out without doing that because I know 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Then I'm going to go plus, and then I have inside my parentheses 36. I have 6 squared. That's 6 times 6, which is also 36. So that's interesting. And we'll jump over here, and we'll keep working out everything inside the parentheses. I have 5. 8 minus 6 is 2. 36 minus 36 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 0 is 10. And so that's the end of that problem. So again, I'm just working things out in order of operations, and then we get to number 3 and number 4, which are just kind of testing your knowledge of the special properties. We know 5 times 5 to the 0 power is 1. We know that 8 to a negative power means I'm going to do 1 over 8 to that power in the positive, which means it's going to be 1 over 8 squared. 8 times 8 is 64. So pay close attention to those. remember, when you have a negative exponent, you move it across the fraction, whether it's from the top to the bottom or bottom to top, make the exponent positive, and then work out whatever you can work out. Starting at number 5, we're going to see how these kind of play together. So here in number 5, 3 to the 0, okay, well that's an exponent, so that's going to be 1. A to the 4th, make that look like a 1. And then 5 to the 1st is just 5. I don't really need that 1, so I'm going to drop it because a to the 4th by itself is the same as 1a to the 4th over 5. That's pretty much it. So those are the kinds of things you're looking for. So like in this next one, 6 to the 0 is 1. Okay, now a to the negative 4th means it's going to move to the bottom. So this means I need to move it down. So it's going to go to the bottom and become a to the 4th. We still have b to the 3rd up top. I'm going to erase this fraction bar. It's a little long. And then 3 squared is still there. What 3 squared is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm actually going to put that in front of my a. Let me fix this fraction bar here. So kind of notice everything that happened. I did the 6 to the 0 became 1. A to the negative 4th moved down to become a to the 4th. B to the 3rd stayed. 3 squared became 9. Then we'll drop that 1. We don't need it. And then we'll leave it, and the final answer will look like that. So use these as guides as you go to work the problems in your unit because they're very similar to what you have. So again, we're going to work through. We have 8 squared. That's going to become 8 times 8, which is 64. I see I have 9 in the bottom. That's going to stay there. Now the y is negative and the x is negative 2. So that needs to move up and this needs to move down. So we're going to switch them in a sense. So x is going to come up and become positive 2. Y is going to go down and become positive 3. Z to the 0 is 1. So that's a 1. I don't really need that 1, to be honest. So we're just going to rewrite the problem as x squared. Now, about the 1s, you only need to write a 1 in a fraction if it is the only thing in its part of the fraction. Otherwise, it's just redundant. You don't need to do 9 times 1. We know that 9 times 1 is 9. So we're just going to write it as 9. We don't need to write it out with the 1. So that's your answer for number 7. Okay, a little bit of a weird one here, but similar idea. We have 4. We have m to the negative 5th, so that needs to move down into the 0. So that's going to become a 1. In a sense, that's going to cancel out. 11 is also negative, so that needs to move up. And the negative 2 on that p needs to move up. So a lot's going to switch. So let's rewrite everything that's going to switch. The 11 is going to come up and be 11 to the 1st power. P is going to come up and become p to the 2nd power. M is going to move down and become m to the 5th power. And the end of the 0 is going to become a 1. And we don't need to write that. So let's go through and work everything out. 4 times 11 to the 1st power. 11 to the 1st power is 11 because we know from our rules that anything to the 1st power is itself. 4 times 11 is 44. P to the 2nd. We don't need this 1. And then we get an m to the 5 in the denominator. All right, well, that's it for the first lesson. But the key components of this is just knowing what 0 exponents, negative exponents, and exponents to the 1 are. So work these out, use them as a guide for your Algebra 1, for your lesson, and know that each question kind of goes along or has a pair in the lesson itself. All right, so that's it for this video. Good luck. Reach out to me if you have questions.